Hey YouTube, I'm back to update you guys on my move to Atlanta, Georgia. Last I was on here, I was speaking from the airport and I was speaking about my transition of looking for an apartment and looking for a job down here. So from that day, what happened was I did not get approved for the apartment and I literally thought I heard God speak. So I don't know what went wrong per se. I can only, guess what happened, but it didn't go through. I never got a call back from the job, which was so crazy, but not so much because remember I was late. So it was like, I think the enemy was like working against me, but it ended up turning out amazing. So the beginning was rough. So the last I think I was on here was like October, November. So I moved down here in November. I literally read a scripture in the Bible, and I should have had that prepared. That spoke about a rich man. It's hard for a rich man to get into heaven because it's hard for him to sell all his things or give it away. So that's what I did. Like I felt like God was like speaking to me about that, and that's what I did. And honestly, like just a tip, that is what helped me do this transition because I had to get a storage unit back in Ohio. And I put like a lot of my things in the storage unit and I came down here literally with like 3 luggages. I packed my car up as high to the ceiling as I could do it in my trunk. And me and my children just jumped on the road and we came and moved on faith. So a little bit of the information that went on during that transition, because now I do have my own place. But in November, I decided to stay with a sister. Well, yeah, she's my sister. So I went and stayed with her. She is a college student, and she didn't have a lot of space. So it was really uncomfortable. I wasn't used to it. I feel like I was like acting like a spoiled brat to God because I was like super, I don't want to say I was ungrateful, but I was. So I stayed there for like, I think it was a week. And then I was like, I can't do this. I'm going back to Ohio. And I ran back home. So I went back home for the holiday. And I had like a few days to think. And everyone just kept saying, like, you shouldn't give up. You shouldn't give up. You shouldn't get up. But this is my whole thing, like what I was going through. I've always had my own spot. It's only been like a brief moment from the age of 19. I'm in my 30s that I had to stay with my mom. So it was like hard because I already just lived with my mom in like 2018 and it was so hard then. And then to live with my sister with limited space, and I felt like I just was imposing. You know, she's young, it's her first place, so it's like I didn't want to come with my children and just overcrowd her space. Or she kept reassuring me that everything was fine, but I just didn't feel good like just doing that. I started beating myself up like, oh my God, I should have prepared better to move here, whatever. And that's why you have to be obedient. But I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And before I really like moved down here, I didn't have a job. I moved down here with, I can't remember how much I came down here with the first time when I really came. Probably it's like $1,000 or something like that. Because when I came down here looking for a job, way before I even gave up my house, I had a couple of thousands of dollars like saved up. Because I thought the move was going to go smoothly and it didn't. So the longer I stayed in Ohio, the more money I had to pay, and I wasn't working because I was packing the house and things of that sort. So I kind of went through all the money I saved up to move. So that was another thing that was like a stress on me and was like playing on my heartstrings. So I moved in with her. I offered her money to help with bills because, of course, when you stay with someone, the bills increase. So I did that. And they were like, she has a roommate. So they were like really pretty cool. We had a lot of good nights with talking, ordering food, whatever. But in that, I was like dipping into my money so much and I got a little nervous. So I went back home. I had to do the reset. And then when the people kept saying like don't give up and things like that, I just rethought about it. I re-strategized, and I have another family member. I have a lot of family that lives here in Georgia, honestly. So I called another family member who has a bigger space. They had told me I could come stay with them when I was pretty much already here. And it was like, if it doesn't work out, you have somewhere to come. So I went there, and that totally was, I feel like that situation was worse than the first situation. So I stayed there for a month, though. I really toughed it out. And before I even moved there, before I moved to Georgia, period, I was like coming down here looking for a job. I think I came 2 or 3 times. During that time, even when I went back home, I kept seeing UPS trucks everywhere, like UPS, UPS, UPS. I felt like at this point, God is screaming UPS to me. But of course, I've never worked like a real legit job. I always just did hair, and for a long time I had bartended. So I always had like those 2 things that was like independent, like work. So I never really like worked where I had to go clock in and take breaks when people tell me to. So I was like, is this really what God want me to do? I was so confused, so I prayed about it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to just take a chance on it. I don't really have much choice. So I applied, and I didn't finish the application, right? So when I came home for Thanksgiving break, they called me and was like, it was a lady. She was like, can you please fill out the rest of this application? We want to hire you right on the spot. And she's like, literally, when you finish, we're going to call you back and say you're hired. And I was like, okay, this can't be nobody but God, so let me do that. I filled out a job application. I literally got hired on the spot. So when I went back to Georgia, I went back with a job. I made $21 an hour. It was a seasonal position, and I got to drive my own car, which I loved. And we kind of didn't have to start work that early. In orientation, they told us we would, but we didn't have to, like, I'm not a morning person because I always made my own schedule. That's what I'm trying to get at. So it was really nice. I really, 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 really enjoyed working for UPS more than anything. It was just fun, just seeing different areas of Georgia. I was kind of like more local in this one area and did that area, but they would switch my streets and stuff. So it just gave me like a chance to just see new things, and it was like a really nice neighborhood. So I got to see like how the wealthy people live and things like that, which I learned a lot. I was really paying attention to like how they budget their money. I was paying attention to different ways that they act and how kind they were, just different things, and it taught me so much. So with that, I made $21 an hour. They paid us $5 a day for using our mobile phones, and then they gave us like 58 cents, I think, a mile. So I was making good money, and we got paid every week. So I was blessed. So it was allowing me to save money quickly for an apartment. But the problem was I was always at work, and I didn't have time to look for an apartment. So I had made it in my mind like I would really look when I have enough money to put down for a deposit. That's when I'm gonna really, really take it serious and really, really look. So once I had that money saved up, I started making my apartment list. And of course, I started feeling way more uncomfortable. So that was like the pressure that was put upon me to make sure, like, I'm sorry, I thought a bug was on me. Make sure that I move in a timely manner. So the time came, I told my family member I would only be there for 30 days. So the time came where it was 30 days, and me and my children packed up, and I literally felt like I didn't have nowhere to go. And I had called my sister back, and I was like, you know, our time was up at this location. Do you mind if we come back? She was like, I always had an open door for you. Don't worry about it. It was just like everybody was just opening doors for me, but it was like, I think I just had an issue with like imposing, so to speak, because I never had to stay with anyone. I always was the one that opened my door for other people. So it was just hard to accept that and accept people being there for me in that way, because a lot of people haven't really been like that for me pretty much my whole life growing up. So it was just hard to know like it was genuine and stuff like that and accept it. So what happened? Oh, when I stayed with her, I was there for literally like a week, and we were sleeping on this air mattress, right? And this is what did it. the air mattress was already seeping out, because you know, if you buy an air mattress that plugs into the wall and you have to like turn it on and it has like a self-inserted pump or whatever, it seeps air. Like, this is not my first air mattress experience. I used to buy them for the kids and stuff. So it seeps air after like a couple of days or a week, and they never, like, none of the air mattresses are made. I even thought about coming up with my own air mattress because I was like, this is crazy how much money you spend on air mattress and no air goes out. So we slept on the floor for like 2, maybe 3 days on a hardwood floor with no carpet. And I got on my knees and I prayed, and I was like, Lord, I know I did not make a mistake bringing my children down here, giving up all my furniture, leaving my whole life in Cleveland, even my shop, to come down here to feel like I failed. So what are you doing? And I really feel like in that moment, this is what God wanted, was for me to come to him and stop leaning on my own understanding. So the job assignment was at the wit's end, and they were like cutting our routes before the season, the date that they told us the season would end. So I started getting weary because I didn't have enough money saved up. Of course, I still had my car note, insurance and stuff like that to pay. I still had my phone bill to pay. I was still paying bills in my storage back home, and I still was like taking care of that with my job. So I was like, I don't know what's happening. And this is when the magic started. That night, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm just going to apply for any apartment. And if you ever try to apply for an apartment in Georgia, I'm just talk to the people who never have. It's hard because some apartment buildings charge you $200 fee to apply. Then it's like an applicant fee per person that's 18 and over. So you have to pay like $99 or however much the apartment is charging. So just applying for one apartment can run you from anywhere from like $300 to like $500, $600, depending on how many people in that household is going to be over the age of 18. Luckily, I was moving with 2 children. But it still was expensive. So I paid for one apartment building. Then you have to be careful of scam artists. I was scammed at one building. That's what started the discouragement of looking for an apartment too, because I was told I would get my $200 back if I wasn't approved. But technically, I did get approved, but I declined that apartment building. And it was more so because I felt in my spirit that the lady there, it was something about her that made me say no. I can't remember what it was. She was just kind of like professionally nasty, if I can say that. And I just didn't like her spirit. So I was like, do I really want to move into a building and somebody's talking to me like this on the phone and then prejudging me over the phone? Like, I don't want to stay somewhere like that. So I, like I told you, I prayed and I got up that night and I really put in applications. And it was funny because I was like on my last day of work. No, this is what happened. I told my friend, I met a friend at work, and I was like, she already was like hired in. And I told her like, I'm at my wit's end. I told her everything and like how uncomfortable we were and all that. So she was such a sweetheart. She was like, man, I would move in with my mom to let you guys stay in my 1-bedroom apartment, and it's fine. I was like, she was like, I know I don't know you like that, but I feel bad. I just want you to be comfortable. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, no, I would not do that. So, but I just appreciate her, and I was just like, just pray for me, whatever. And she was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to the people at the job and make sure that if they do launch a new route, that you will be one of the first people that get called. So I was like, thank you so much, or whatever. So she really did do it. Like, you know how people tell you they're going to do something and they don't do it, they may forget, or they never meant that they were going to do it in the first place, or stuff like that. So I didn't think much of it, but I knew she had a good heart, so I wasn't worried. But I didn't think nothing of it because it still was left up under to the other supervisors to choose who, you know, worked the route or not. So they called me, and I went to, this was my last day of work. They literally called me for one more day. I went in, they gave me a whole new route in a different neighborhood. So not only did they call me to do one more route, they gave me another route. And what I figured out on this route was they gave me a new route because it would keep me like it was more places to deliver to because I had a whole bunch of apartment buildings. But mind you, I never delivered to any apartment buildings the whole time I worked there. So it took me a minute to figure it out. Like, but the funny thing is, and the magical thing is, the first building that I came to on that route, I pulled into this apartment building and I was stressed out. I was like literally on the clock, like, I don't know how to do apartment buildings. I was like, I'm gonna try to figure it out. I don't want to bother my supervisors because I really felt like they was tired of us for real, calling them, acting like we didn't know how to do certain things or running behind or whatever. So I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. So I left the apartment building. But it was funny because when I pulled in the parking lot, it was a dog barking like crazy. And I was like, I am not trying to get bit by a dog. But I noticed that the dog was like on the third floor on the porch. And I'm like, I do not want to get bit by a dog, but I'm just going to watch that dog. But I'm going to come back because I'm going to do all the houses and then I'm going to come back to the apartment buildings. So I left and I came back and I did the apartment buildings, but I didn't come back to the first apartment building. I went to another one to see if it was easier to figure out their numbers. So when I went there, the first place I went to, I delivered a package to this young girl. She was super young. And she had children, and her apartment was so beautiful. Like, when she opened up the door, I was like, wow, like, this is so nice. And I was like, can I ask you a question? I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I was like, can I ask you a question? She was like, yeah. I'm like, are these affordable? And she was like, it depends on what you call affordable. She was like, I heard that they take, like, low income. They have, like, a program for it, and then they took Section 8 at one point. She was like, but for me, it was affordable for me. I didn't even ask her. I guess she said it like that because she didn't want me to like be in her business or whatever. And that was fine because I'm at work. I ain't want to get in trouble. So I left out of there and I went to the rental office because I was literally at the ends of my route. I went to the rental office after I did those buildings. The rental office wasn't that building. It was a whole nother building around the corner. So I went there and I asked them for an application and or some type of anything that can show me what it was like, how to apply, because it was like stuff be online nowadays. So I was just asking her how to apply. So she told me, she gave me a brochure with all the apartment buildings in this area on it, and I had to go back to the first building as my last building, right? So I finally figured out how to deliver there, and that dog was still barking. So the lady was on the porch and I was like, ma'am, I asked her something. Oh, I was asking how to do how do I find out what boxes, how do I read the apartment numbers? It was so confusing. I live here now. That's the whole moral of the story. Like, I live in the building that I pulled in the parking lot the first time. So when I order things, they have a hard time finding my apartment building. That's how hard it is. And it wasn't just me just being oblivious. Literally, delivery people have a hard time finding our apartments because of how they designed it. So I was literally sitting in front of my building, in front of my actual apartment the first time I pulled in my parking lot to deliver the first package when I got stuck. So literally God like made me sit in this parking lot like, Brittany, like, this is where you're gonna live, like, hello. And I'm so grateful. I'm so happy. I swear I'm so happy that I literally asked. You know, I risked my job. I didn't even know if that was like against the policy to do that, but I was at my wit's end. I was basically homeless and I just didn't know what to do. So get this, I went to my sister's house that night. I got online and I applied for the apartment online. It was like a pre-application thing. The man called me at 7:30 the next morning and he said, I like to call people early in the morning because if it gives you time to get dressed and get yourself together or call off work or whatever you have to do if you want to come in that. So I pray you can still hear me because when people call, it knocks out the sound. Oh, I pray you can hear me. Let me just make sure. Okay, so